everyone, and welcome to the DTM 2020. Bonjour et bienvenue, because we are here in Spa-Francorchamps for the first time since 15 years, and we're so excited to finally be racing again. Of course, everything looks a little different. We're wearing masks, and also there are no fans, unfortunately, but we're all so happy to be back here and to be racing. So we're going to make the best of it, that's for sure, and it's going to be absolutely exciting. And of course, all eyes are on this young man, Renee Rast, who is the reigning champion, and he's already sitting in the car getting ready for the qualifying. And yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting qualifying. It's a very quick track, so let's see what it brings. And now here's your commentator. Enjoy the qualifying.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Yeah, we're here at last, 10 months after the final DTM race of 2019. And we couldn't be more pleased to be back racing. We're sad that there are no fans here at the circuit. Hopefully that day will come in the not too distant future. But for now, at least, we are racing once more, and with pretty much a full schedule of DTM for the rest of this season. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm very privileged to be here trackside at Spa-Francorchamps. We've had one practice session already this morning, not very long ago, in fact, just over an hour ago the session ended. So it's a busy, well, not only a busy final part of 2020 for these drivers and teams, but a very busy schedule here today at Spa, because they had a 45-minute free practice session. They've got qualifying for 20 minutes coming up to set the grid for the first of the weekend's two races. And then, of course, the race coming up this afternoon. The local time here in Spa is just about 10:50, 10 to 11, and the session due to get underway at 10:55, and we got the race coming up in just a few hours time at 1:30. There is one of the rookies, if you can call him that, for this season. One of three new drivers in the DTM is Robert Kubitsa, the former Grand Prix racer, a race winner in the 2008 Canadian Grand Prix for Williams, a real talent whose Formula One career was interrupted by a very serious accident when he was rallying off-season back in 2011. Many believe he would have been a fantastic champion in Formula One had he had the opportunity. He did come back to Formula One last year with Williams, but sadly in an uncompetitive car, although he did score the team's only points, and he's made the trip across to DTM, and he went very well in this morning's free practice session. Robin Fryan's here in the DTM for a second season, somebody with a fantastic pedigree in single-seaters in things like Formula Renault, where he was a champion, and in Blancpain GT Racing, where he was also a champion. And speaking of champions, there is the current champion, Renee Rast. What a terrific driver he is. He's only had 3 seasons in DTM. He's already had 17 race wins, and he got 7 wins on his route to his second championship title last year. This was the driver that gave him the biggest push in 2019, though. Nico Muller with by far his best season so far in DTM, the runner-up in last year's championship, managing to score 3 race wins. And Nico with a very good start to the 2020 campaign, because he is the driver who topped the free practice times in what was a rain-affected session this morning. It being Spa, it's the weather is swinging from 33 degrees heat yesterday. It was absolutely sweltering hot, not a cloud in the sky. You wake up this morning, you can see there's been some rain, and we certainly had a bit of rain. Not much, but just enough to make it damp and greasy. Most of the runners were on slick tyres for most of the time, but it made for a very lively free practice session in which the cars were on track for large periods, because unlike most DTM weekends, they only get 1 free practice here, and it's on the same day as qualifying. They haven't been racing the cars for months, of course, as you know, and most of them have never raced a DTM car here at Spa, because, as Verena said, the last time the DTM raced here, the only time the DTM raced here, was 15 years ago in 2005. It's back when Mika Häkkinen and John Alesi, the ex-Formula One racers, were in the championship. Mika Häkkinen won the race here at Spa. The only driver on the current grid to have raced here, and you've seen a glimpse of him a few seconds ago in the garages, is the British driver Jamie Green. Still in search of his first DTM title, but many times he's come close to taking the crown. The most experienced DTM driver on the grid currently, with 193 starts. Conversely, Harrison Newey is about to have his first race start in the DTM this afternoon, because he's another of the rookies this season. A late addition to the grid, the British driver, the son of Adrian Newey, the legendary Formula One car designer, who's had 10 Constructors' Championship titles to his success. currently the Chief Technical Officer at Red Bull Racing. Harrison, a very good young driver coming through the ranks as the second British driver in the field, having come through things like the European Formula 3 Championship. He's been doing some GT racing of late and was a class winner in LMP2 at the Daytona 24 Hours at the start of the year before lockdown. Right, we have got the cars coming out onto what is now a dry circuit. The weather forecast looks pretty good for today, but it's the Ardennes Forest, it's Spa, and it's so changeable here, it's unreal. It can change in the blink of an eye. And this being such a big circuit, a spread out circuit, it's over 7 kilometres long and is by far the longest track on the calendar. What you can get and what we got in this morning's free practice session is one part of the circuit looks pretty dry, the other part of the circuit, it's completely different. So over here, I'm just above the pit lane where you can see the cars now exiting on the start-finish straight. Yes, we had a little bit of rain and the circuit was a little bit damp, but it wasn't too bad, but they got back out through corners like the Fan and Campus over in the middle sector, which is not that far away from us, and it was pretty wet with large plumes of spray coming off the back of the cars. There with his new livery, the number 53 car of Jamie Green, to say the most experienced driver in the field, the British driver. Have such a good 2019 campaign, but he would so love to move into a position to challenge for the championship once again, just like he did in 2017, where he came very close to winning it. He finished third in the end, but he was a fraction away from winning the championship. And that was the year that Renee Rast got his first title. There was a bit of drama at the end of the session in free practice this morning, and Jamie Green was one of the drivers that had an issue, but it was on the way back to the pits. Essentially, it was his last flying lap, and he had a puncture, a right rear puncture, but he'd done 2 quick sectors and he didn't have far to limp the car back home. The bigger drama, which had caused a red flag just before that, was Ferdinand Habersberg. Ferdinand went off. He put wet tyres on, even though parts of the circuit were drying. He tried that out. He understeered badly at Campus, went straight on. It wasn't a heavy impact. He went through the gravel trap. Ferdinand got out of the car and looked okay, although he was taken for a regular medical checkup. But the car, when it was put onto the trailer, we could see, as it was recovered back to the pits, there was quite a bit of damage to the front corner of the car. Now, a very short period of time to try and get that car fixed for qualifying, and I've been told that Ferdinand is sadly not going to take part in the qualifying session, which is a real shame because he was going pretty well in that session, and he also was the driver that set the overall fastest time in June's pre-season test at the Nürburgring. So a real shame for Ferdinand, but he's going to have to miss qualifying and start the first race of the season at the back of the grid. So Audi versus BMW. Audi on a real streak of wins at the moment, going to the back end of last season, but BMW have looked much stronger in what pre-season testing we've had, and in qualifying it was a good mix of the two brands at the front of the field. Nico Muller right at the end of the session, as they all went back out for one more flying lap after the red flag incident had been dealt with. He managed to get the fastest time, a 2 minutes 23.272, just to give you an idea of what kind of times to expect around here in qualifying. Robin Fryan's was almost with him, and he did go top of the times very briefly at the end of the session. So Robin Fryan second with a 2:23.941. They were literally almost the last two across the line. Up until that point, Marco Vittman and Robert Kubitsa for BMW had been the top two, but right at the end of the session they were bumped down to third and fourth places. Marco Vittman, one of two double champions in the field, 2014, 2016 champion. There's Timo Glock, like Robert Kubitsa, an ex-Formula 1 racer, ex-Grand Prix racer. Had some good seasons with the Toyota Formula 1 squad when they were in business, but now a very experienced touring car racer with DTM, and somebody that looked pretty quick this morning. He ended up 7th place in the end, Timo Glock, but there were large parts of free practice where he was in the top three, and he even topped the times on numerous occasions. You can see from the graphic on the bottom left of your screen that Marco Vittman has set 2 purple sector times. The lap split into 3 sectors. If you see a purple icon, it means the car's gone quicker than anybody else through that sector. If it's green, it's a personal best. And Marco Vittman is about to set the first benchmark time of this 20-minute qualifying session. It's a short, sharp session. It's a long lap, so you don't get many laps to get in this session. And Marco Vittman, 2:07.182, shows just how much the track has completely dried up since free practice. They're 16 seconds, more or less, quicker than they were this morning. Renee Rast is on a flyer. He's set the personal best in sector 1 there. So the 3 cars that have set a time, Vittman, Glock and Auer are the top three. Lucas Auer back to the DTM after a little while away, but these are very different DTM beasts than the one he drove when he was last in the championship. You're on board with Renee Rast. All this great championship success in Porsche Carrera Cup in Germany, Porsche Super Cup. Now in his 4th season of DTM, the reigning champion. He's already equalled Jamie Green's number of race wins with 17. As I say, he got 7 wins last year on his march to his 2nd championship. So, best in 2nd sector through Blanchimont. This incredibly quick left-hander they go at the back of the circuit at over 260 kilometres an hour, flat out in 6th gear. Now he's going to drop it on the brakes all the way down to the bus stop chicane, the final sector of the lap, the final 2 corners of the lap. Fires it through there, gets up out of 1st gear to 2nd to 3rd, over the line he goes to the top of the times, 2 minutes 6.894 seconds. He'll drop down again to 1st gear now for La Source, turn 1, the hairpin, and now he drops downhill towards the world famous Eau Rouge. They'll pull 3G through Eau Rouge. Incredible compression on the body as they drop downhill, rise uphill. It's a blind exit to the corner over the crest, and it requires real bravery and trust in your car. You're looking at the green and white Nico Muller car, which was quickest in the free practice session this morning. The Audi run by Team Abt Sportsline, who got on the podium here with 2 drivers last time the DTM raced at this circuit in 2005, with Matthias Ekstrom, who was a double DTM champion, and Tom Christensen, who raced in DTM but more renowned for his successes at Le Mans, a 9-time Le Mans winner. They both raced for the Abt Sportsline team, and they both got on the podium that time behind Mika Hakkinen, 2nd and 3rd. Muller's gone quickest, 206.353. Rast is 2nd and not improving in the 1st sector. Marco Vittman 3rd. He's the best of the BMWs, as he was last season, 3rd in the championship, and a multiple race winner last year, the former double champion. And you're looking with his new livery as well at the very brightly coloured Mike Rockenfeller car, the 2013 champion, about to complete his 1st flying lap, and we'll see where this puts him. It puts him 3rd quickest, so good effort, 6/10 down. It's not much on a very long lap. We're going to get a replay of Mike just getting it wrong on the way into the chicane, just a bit too deep on the brakes. It takes such speed into the bus stop chicane at the end of the lap. It's so easy to do. That was Robin Fryan's, rather. So easy to do. So Robin ruining the lap, rather. Currently in 7th place. But as I say, he was right up there this morning. He was the first driver in free practice to really get to grips with the damp circuit. He put in a number of really impressive laps early on in the session. Fell away a little bit in the middle of the session, then came good to finish 2nd right at the end on that final flying lap. So Robin Fryan's the former Formula Renault 3.5 Series champion, former Formula Renault Euro Cup champion, then double Blancpain GT champion, both the endurance and the sprint categories. 5th in his 1st season of DTM last year, the Dutchman, very impressively so. Still looking for his 1st win, but the podium started to come thick and fast towards the end of the season. And he'll certainly be one to watch for the championship this year, you would imagine, as will this young driver, Nico Muller, still with plenty of experience, but still with so many more years ahead of him, Nico Muller. Waiting for him to cross the line, see where he pops up. He's 1st at the moment with a 206.353. Robin Fryan's, he's going to be 8th. But the last sector was encouraging, a personal best through the last sector. Loic Duval wasn't really threatening the top of the times in free practice, but he's gone 2nd now in qualifying with a 206.701, the former Le Mans winner. And here is one of the 2 South African drivers in the field this year, back for another campaign, Sheldon van der Linde, who was also up there for much of the free practice session this morning. Another young, talented driver, just 21 years of age, from Johannesburg, and from a racing family. His dad, Sean, was a South African touring car champion for BMW. Sheldon actually got to race a BMW GT3 car in the finale of last year's Intercontinental GT Championship at Kyalami, following in the footsteps of Dad, driving a BMW in his home country as a factory BMW driver for the first time in his homeland. He's in the top 10 at the moment, but I think there's more to come from Sheldon based on this morning's performance, albeit in very different conditions. Into the pits we've got coming Timo Glock. There's the number 11 BMW of Marco Vittman being pushed back to the garage, getting ready for the 2nd half of qualifying and another run at this. But it was pretty early on in the session that Muller set that 206.353. Duval 2nd with a 206.7, 4/10 back. is in the pits as well. Renee Rast third is in the pits, 206.894. Mike Rockenfeller fourth, 206.959. So Muller's got a gap over the rest, but second, third and fourth, less than 0.2 of a second between them. Jamie Green fifth, but in the 207s, 207.1s for Hour in sixth, Vittman in seventh, Robin Fryan's in eighth. They are split by not very much at all, just 61 thousandths of a second. And then ninth, Van der Linde, and 10th, Timo Glock. Philip Eng, who had some encouraging performances in the Nürburgring pre-season tests in June, is only 11th at the moment. Robert Kubitsa, who went so well in free practice this morning, in the damp conditions is 12th. Harrison Newey is 13th. Jonathan Aberdeen is 14th. 15th place, the other rookie for this year, Fabio Scherer, the Swiss driver. And there's no Ferdinand Habersberg after the crash this morning in free practice. He's absent from this session.
We can try two.
Okay, copy, 2.
Team radio from Renee Rast. We can try 2. So looking at different settings now, different mappings on the car to try and find some more pace. Currently needs to find just over half a second.
Go for 2.
Copy.
Are you fine with the DS push-to-pass procedure?
Yes. Yeah, normally yes.
Copy that.
You are slightly braking for Blanchimont.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yeah, I can see.
Have a look.
So Renee Rast there on the team radio. Great to be able to drop into those conversations. You can see now, looking at the data, every trace of data, where you braked, how long for, where you turned in, where you got on the accelerator, just all that information being absorbed by Renee Rast. I was just touching the brakes on the way into Blanchimont, we heard him say. The ultra-quick left-hander out the back of the circuit where they reach 260 kilometres an hour, about 160 miles an hour. At turns 16, turn 17, before they sweep out of the left-hander and fly back down towards the chicane at the end of the lap. So that, he feels, is where he can maybe gain a little bit of time. You can see the rear view camera there in the middle of the screen, and the multitude of displays and buttons that the drivers have to deal with and get their heads around these days.
Position. I have a bit of understeer.
Yes, I agree. The bouncing on the RS doesn't seem to be that bad, so I think we could go for it. I fully agree with you.
So Robert Kubitsa saying he's got some understeer, which is never a good thing. You turn into the corner of the car, wants to go straight on. But of course, this is new ground. They haven't had any testing around here. They had a free practice session, which was largely damp. And so qualifying is almost their first run at this. It's to be expected that they won't get the right setup straight away. It's a learning curve for them. So around about 23, 24 degrees Celsius now, but the track temperature is going to keep rising. It's all pretty much completely dry out there now. So Robert Kubitsa just trying to think about this and feel how they can just find a bit more time out of the car using all of his experience. He's come into the championship with the ART Grand Prix squad, who are hugely successful, in particular in terms of international single-seater racing. So they'll be a good squad for Robert to have his first season in the championship with. Sébastien Philippe, the team principal these days for the French team, returning to the DTM for the first time since they were last involved in 2016. Previously running Mercedes for drivers like Gary Paffett and Lucas Auer and Esteban Ocon as well. Now, of course, a Formula One racing driver. 6 minutes left on the clock. This is going to be tight. They're almost just looking at getting maybe one, maybe two more laps in this session. It's going to be a very interesting looking grid, you suspect, for the first race of the season coming up this afternoon. One thing they should be able to find around the 7 kilometres of the circuit is plenty of space. The original layout of this circuit was 15 kilometres long. It was a road circuit, public roads. It was at one point the fastest road circuit in Europe when it was first launched in the early 1920s. It's changed a few times, the layout, since then. La Source, the first corner of the hairpin, one of the few elements of the original circuit, but what a track this is. The drivers are delighted to be here, and it's a great calendar as well that Gerhard Berger, the chairman of ITR, and the team have managed to put together for this season. Incredible that we're still going to be able to cram in 9 different race weekends, and we've got some fantastic tracks on the calendar. After this weekend, in 2 weeks' time, there's back-to-back weekends at the Lausitzring. The first weekend they'll be using the longer version of the circuit, the GP circuit, then the shorter sprint version the following week. At the start of September, we go to Assen in the Netherlands. Very much looking forward to that one. Double header at Nürburgring, then 2 weekends back-to-back in mid-September, again on different layouts of the circuit. Then to Zolder, which was the home of the first ever DTM race back in the 1980s, with 2 back-to-back weekends there in October, and we go all the way through till early November, November 6th, 7th and 8th, the final weekend of the season for rounds 17 and 18 of the championship at the traditional end-of-season venue at Hockenheim in Germany. So some terrific circuits on the calendar, and I know from their quotes that they've been putting in pre-season that most of the drivers have been saying they absolutely rate this as one of the best circuits in the world, and they're delighted to be here. Renee Rast then firing it up for another go as he starts the lap, goes past the commentary box window, all alone, nobody to get in his way. On the brakes down to first gear for the La Source hairpin, then the circuit you'll see just falls away. It's a big charge downhill now, heading towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Up to 6th gear, up to 250 kilometers an hour. Watch this. Absolutely flat out for Renee Rast. You can see offline there are still damp patches as well. Huge bravery. You're flat out now, uphill for most of the Kemmel Straight. Then it begins to drop downhill just as you get to the next braking zone. On the way down into Le Combe, down to 3rd gear, around about 120 kilometers an hour, 75 miles an hour. Attack the curbs, go right, go left. The circuit will now begin to fall away again, coming out of the final part of that section, over the curbs, dropping downhill now into Bruxelles. Rivage as it was called, and there you can see it's like a roller coaster. The circuit just falls away from you. Fantastic corner, that great point to come and view if you ever get the chance to come here to Spa. You can see half the circuit from up there over in the distance, and then down towards Pouhon, which has lots of runoff these days, but it's still a very challenging corner. The left-hander taken at about 190 kilometers an hour, sweeping left-hander downhill, and then charging down towards Le Fan, which is a big sweeping chicane. A right-left complex, more of an S-bend section, I suppose, than a chicane. Through goes Renee Rast, who set the personal best time in Sector 1. Duval has set a personal best in his first sector, so too has Rockenfeller. Nobody improving upon the absolute bests, though. Heading out the back of the circuit now into the Ardennes Forest. Faster, better second sector for Renee Rast as well. He needs to find, though, just about half a second here to get himself onto pole position. He will get one more lap after this as well, so there's another opportunity for him because he was quick out of the box, quick back onto the circuit. Sheldon van der Linde, Jonathan Aberdeen both on good laps here as well, improving themselves. Through the chicane then, for the final time on this lap comes the double champion, the German driver, hard on the gas, accelerates the Audi over the line. Where does this put him? To the top of the times, 2 minutes and 5.889 seconds. Renee Rast goes fastest in qualifying. But we're not done yet. Minute and 40 seconds left on the clock. He starts what will be his final lap of the session. Jonathan Aberdeen, you are now watching, has had personal best in sectors 1 and 2. Mike Rockenfeller, absolute best in sector 2. He's 4th quickest overall. He could challenge for pole position as well. Jonathan Aberdeen improves, 12th place. Sheldon van der Linde has crossed the line to be the best of the BMWs in 2nd place, and he'll get another lap out of this as well. And then Mike Rockenfeller does make good on that very impressive second sector to go now up into 2nd place. Audi's 1 and 2. Van der Linde, the BMW, in 3rd place. Muller 4th. Duval down to 5th. Philip Engers improved up to 6th place, his best lap of the weekend so far. Jamie Green in 7th, Lucas Auer on his return to DTM in 8th place, Marco Vittman 9th, Robin Fryan's 10th. Surely there's more to come from Robin Fryan. He set personal best in sectors 1 and 2. Surely more from this man as well, 12th at the moment, but he looked good in free practice. Timo Glock attacking then on the way out of the chicane, heading towards the line. He'll have time to get another lap in as well. 40-odd seconds left on the clock. Glock into the top 5. Just under half a second away from the fastest time of the session. It's Rast, Rockenfeller, van der Linde, Muller, Glock and Duval, the top 10. Muller, 2:05.743. Robin Fryan's to the top of the times. 2:05.625 seconds. You now got 3 of them suddenly in the 2:05s. 2:05.625, just over a 10th quicker than Muller. Fryan's goes provisional pole. Renee Rast's on a 2:05.8. how's his lap looking? Not that quick, relatively. Not personal bests in sectors 1 or 2 for Renee Rast, so he needs a really good third sector to improve. He'll be just about the first to take the checkered flag, Renee Rast. So Robin Fryan's showing good form here so far this weekend. He's on provisional pole position. We're into the dying seconds of this, and at the moment, nobody looks like they're on any real big improvement laps here to unearth him from that pole position. How's Robert Kubitsa getting on? 14th at the moment. And this is his last chance to improve. And he's definitely been pretty close to the pace here so far this weekend. Can he get himself up a few rows on the grid? Over the line he goes. No, he doesn't. He doesn't improve. So 14th place. It's tough out there in the DTM, no matter how experienced you are. And of course, Roberts is a driver trying to get used to these cars still, and not with having any real chance to do any pre-season activity to speak of. So Jamie Green, the only driver in the current field to have raced a DTM car here, though plenty of them have raced GTs here and things like the Spa 24-hour race, and in single-seaters as well, in the cases of drivers like Marco Vittman a few years ago. But Jamie, albeit a very different DTM car, has raced here. He didn't have a great race weekend. He only finished in 19th place in the race, but he'll be loving the opportunity to drive here again for the first time in 15 years. Jamie Green attacking to try and improve outside the top 10 at the moment. Most of the drivers have now taken the checkered flag. Personal best in sector 1, no improvement in sector 2 for him, so it very much looks like Robin Fryan's is going to get the first pole position of the season, with Nico Muller alongside, and the reigning champion Renee Rast, who was on provisional pole, looking like he's going to end up in 3rd place. What about Jamie Green, the last driver to keep an eye on? Can he get himself up into that top 10 at least? That's what he'll be hoping for. We're about to find out as he comes towards the finish line. Roars past the commentary box now, and I'm afraid he stays 11th. So disappointing start to the weekend in terms of competitive sessions for Jamie Green. And it's Robin Fryan's who claims his maiden pole position.
At the DECRA, and you wait next to the car.
Copy, I'm already here.
Okay, and please switch off the car and take the USB stick with you.
Copy. Fucking finally.
Yes, awesome.
He's done it. Finally, he says, in a roundabout way. Apologies for that. Robin Fryan's with his first pole position. It's only his 2nd season of the DTM, 5th in last year's championship. His best grid was at Mazzano last year, where he got on the front row in 2nd place. But he was expecting that. And Robin Fryan's, who's, as I say, been successful in everything he's done. GTs, Formula E, he's gone well in as well as a race winner in that. Single-seaters, Formula Renault before that, Formula BMW Europe champion back in the day as well. The 28-year-old from Maastricht is on pole position for the first time in the DTM. Nico Muller continuing his excellent form from last year will line up alongside. There's only a 1/10 of a second between them. Getting the drivers weighed now. There is, as you'd expect, a minimum weight for the cars. There's a minimum weight for the cars with the drivers on board, and there is also a minimum weight for the drivers. The drivers have to be a minimum weight of 84 kilograms, so I definitely qualify for that. If they're under that, because some of these are quite slight fellows, they have to put ballast on the lap and crotch belts of the seat belts. The minimum weight of the cars with the drivers on board is 1,070 kilograms. There is Renee Rast, relatively satisfied, I would say, with 3rd place, but you know, you always want to be on pole position as a racing driver. Gave it his all, wasn't quite to be, and maybe it was better to be a bit further back in the lap. He was earlier to cross the line than was Robin Fryan's, and maybe that came into play in the end, but 3rd place okay for him. Robin Fryan's then on pole position for Audi, 2 minutes 5.625 seconds for the Team Abt driver, with Nico Muller 2nd, 3rd place Renee Rast 4th, Mike Rockenfeller 5th, Sheldon van der Linde, Timo Glock 6th, Loic de Waal in 7th, Marco Vittman 8th. He'll be disappointed with that, I'm sure. Lucas Auer 9th, Philip Eng was 10th. That was Green 11th, Scherer 12th, Aberdeen 13th, Kubitsa 14th on his debut, and also on his debut, Newey in 15th place. So there then the top 3. Face masks on. There's been excellent safety measures to deal with COVID here at Spa, thanks to the organisation of the DTM and the ITR. Everybody temperature checked on the way into the circuit on a daily basis. everybody wearing face masks indoors and outdoors. The paddock split into zones to keep people in separate groups, depending on what you're doing here, what your role is here. And it's been incredibly well managed, as you'd expect. So pose for the drivers for the top three. There, the view over the La Source hairpin, where in just a few hours' time they will be charging. So a very strong session for Nico Müller. He was the runner-up in last year's championship, and Nico, second fastest, is speaking to Verena Rast.
Indeed, a very strong result for Nico Müller. Congratulations to P2 after such a long break. It's good to be back and then in P2, right?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, super excited to be here. We're driving these cars on Spa-Francorchamps is incredible, a lot of fun. We also got a taste of how the weather normally is here this morning. Drive for qualifying, which was nice to do the first laps on slicks in quali, is a big challenge. You don't know what to expect. You don't know if the car is in the window in terms of setup. And yeah, I have to say thank you to Audi and to Up Sportsline, because to give us a car without any practice that is working so well to be 1 and 2 on the grid, I think, yeah, only deserves big compliments. So thanks a lot for that, and we'll try to repay their good efforts with a good race.
All right, thank you, Nico, and best of luck for the race.
Thanks very much, Verena. Yeah, great to hear from Nico. Very amiable fellow, and as he says, a great job by the team to get the car working out of the box effectively. They have been working hard over the lockdown as much as they can, even doing things like practicing pit stops in the warehouses back in the factory on a daily basis. That's certainly been the case for some of the teams. Right, as we see the replay slow motion of Robin Fryan's the pole sitter, we can hear now from the reigning champion, Renee Rast.
So here he is, the reigning champion. Renee, congratulations on P3 for the qualifying. How does it feel out there, and how does the car feel? Because before the qualifying started, you mentioned it wasn't quite all right.
Yeah, we had some small issues in FP1. Still had them in the quali, so not 100% satisfied with that. But in the end, I think a very good result for Audi. It was a tricky one. You know, the practice session was completely wet. And now it was the first time with those cars going in dry conditions through Rouge. And my engineer told me that Nico was almost flat through the corner, and I wasn't. I was braking actually. And then I had to be a bit brave and just kept the foot on the ground and just somehow made it. It was a bit tricky, but in the end, you know, P3, we can be happy.
It pays off to be brave. Thank you very much, and back to the commentator.
Renee Rast is brave in spades, believe you me. Fantastic effort. Right, so this provisionally is how they'll shape up for this afternoon's first round of the championship. Robin Fryan and Nico Müller on the front row of the grid. Renee Rast, you just heard from third. Mike Rockenfeller, the 2013 champion, will start fourth. Sheldon van der Linde in an excellent fifth place, with Timo Glock for company on row 3 of the grid. Loic Duval, the former Le Mans winner, in 7th. Marco Vittman, the former double champion of DTM, starting 8th. The top 10 completed by Lucas Auer on his return, and Philip Eng alongside. Jamie Green and Fabio Scherer are 11th and 12th. The 7th row will be Jonathan Aberdeen and Robert Kubitsa. And then on the final row of the grid, Harrison Newey with the driver that missed the qualifying session, Ferdinand Habersberg, alongside. The pole sitter then for this first race coming up this afternoon, Robin Fryan, and we can hear from him now with Verena.
I'm now here with Robin Fryan. Fantastic job, your maiden pole actually in the DTM, so I guess it's a good way to start into the new season on pole, right?
Yeah, definitely. Last year we were also really competitive, but never managed to put it on pole. Now, first race weekend, start the season on the high, which was definitely the target. And yeah, start the first race on pole. It's definitely what we wanted. Obviously, the race it's going to be very interesting, as we never drove here, so we don't know what's going to do with the tire deck and so forwards. So we need to wait and see what's happening, but definitely is a good position to start from.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Robin Fryan. And yeah, now the sun is coming out, so it's going to be very interesting for the race, hopefully also with sunny conditions, and you don't want to miss it, so see you in a bit. And now here are the highlights. Do enjoy.